Today I want to talk about food security in America. We usually think of food insecurity and malnutrition as third world problems. I saw them in the third world when I lived in the Dominican Republic. Here are some pictures that I took while I was there. It was apparent in every area that I lived in that families and children were going hungry. And because I had never seen that hunger in the United States, I just assumed that it didn't exist here. And that was wrong. Assuming that something doesn't exist based on never having seen or experienced it personally is kind of like saying that a buffalo isn't a real animal because you haven't seen one. We all know that buffalo are real animals. The government defines food insecurity as a household that's either uncertain about or unable to get enough food to feed everyone under their roof at some point during the year because of lack of money. And so by that standard, 10.5% of American households are considered food insecure during 2019, or at least during some point in 2019. And that number equates to roughly 13 million food insecure children, meaning that 1 in 6 children in the United States was considered food insecure at some point last year. Black and Hispanic households with children are nearly twice as likely to struggle with food insecurity compared to white households. This graph illustrates some of the disparities in food insecurity between race and before and during the pandemic of COVID-19. So you can see that before the pandemic, food insecurity existed in all households. It was more common in Black and Hispanic households. And then during the pandemic, those numbers have grown across the board, but resulted in really high numbers of food insecure households in the Black and Hispanic communities, equating to roughly 1/3 to 1/2 of Black and Hispanic Americans being food insecure during this pandemic. And food insecurity has more health impacts than just, being hungry or being concerned about where your next meal is going to come from. In studies that have compared the health of food secure children with food insecure children, it's found that food insecure people are 19% more likely to suffer from asthma, 28% more likely to suffer from depression, 180% more likely to forego medical care. They visit the emergency room 26% at a higher rate of 26%. And in adulthood, they're 32% more likely to suffer from obesity. Food insecurity also impacts the way you're able to live your life. And for children who are in school, they are more likely to be dealing with increased hyperactivity, aggression, and anxiety, which affects their school performance. And also their test scores go down when they're food insecure. So their reading scores, their mathematics scores go down, and their developmental, like physical milestones, also are lower or behind that of their peers who are food secure. So to recap what we've covered so far, food insecurity is a problem in the United States. It's a problem for 1 in 10 households or 1 in 6 children. Black and Hispanic children are more likely to experience the food insecurity than a white child. During the COVID pandemic, food insecurity has increased overall, but the gap between minorities and white households has grown wider. And food insecurity is proven to contribute to other diseases, as well as poor school performance. So eradicating food insecurity would be huge for us because it means reducing the number of children falling behind in their health and in their school, which is already a great achievement. But on top of that, because more minorities suffer from food insecurity, when you resolve the issue of hunger in America, you're also resolving one aspect of the racial inequality gap in our country. And if that's not enough, let's take it one step further. Food is essential to living life, as we've shown, but it's also one of the ways that we live life to the fullest. When families can't sit around the table together because there's nothing to eat, they're missing an experience that's part of family culture. Food is also part of social culture. We share drinks when we celebrate marriage or the beginning of a new year. We put candles into cake to celebrate birthdays, and we have entire menus of food associated with religious or secular holidays. People celebrate their heritage by cooking meals native to their homeland. Food is a way to connect father to daughter, connects friend to friend, and neighbor to stranger. Food just connects us. And I knew a woman in the Dominican Republic who lived her entire life in poverty, including food insecurity. On her birthday, another American and I baked a cake, just like we would have baked one if it had been my birthday or her birthday, and we took it to this woman. It was pretty simple, unassuming cake, and to be quite honest, I'm a person who loves to bake and loves desserts, and I was a little bit embarrassed to bring such a plain cake over to this lady. But we took it over, we sang her happy birthday, and I will never forget the way that she stared at that cake. Her serious and somber demeanor as we sang a silly birthday song conveyed her feelings about the magnitude of this gesture. What was a simple cake in our eyes was a massive gift in hers. It was a reminder that she was worth celebrating. It was a reminder that she had worth. In spite of her circumstances, she had worth. You can see in her shoulders that she had been physically burdened with these circumstances, these feelings of unworthiness for far too long. And I'm not saying that birthdays that go celebrated without cake and singing are worthless birthdays. They are definitely not. And it's really not about the cake. It's about what the cake represents. It represents the worth of the person who's being celebrated. Food is the way that we remind people that they have worth. So yes, let's end food insecurity. Let's end it because it leads to poor health. And let's end food insecurity so that kids can focus on school instead of thinking about how hungry they are. And let's end food insecurity so that there's just one less divide between Black and white children. But let's also end food insecurity so that everyone can be liberated from the burden of feeling worthless that comes when you have no food to eat and have forgotten how to celebrate who you are. Thank you.